Cairo, Seattle.
It's time to get schooled with the professor, John Clayton.
Welcome to Schooled with the Professor, and we're pleased to be joined by Ray Roberts, talking a little bit about his career in the National Football League, the state of offensive lines in the National Football League, and also the state of the Seahawks offensive line. And Ray, first off, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, big guy.
All right, so kind of go back and kind of review how your career went and what were your expectations coming in, first-round pick of the Seahawks and all that. Did it go the way that you thought it would, better, worse, or how did it go?
Well, I would say, first of all, just coming to the Seahawks and being drafted was just like an unbelievable dream come true. Like, when I was growing up, guys weren't making a ton of money, and so my attraction to the NFL wasn't to come and make a ton of money. It was just like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to, play for the Cowboys or play against the Cowboys, one of the two. And so just the fact that I got drafted, most of the things that I had hung my hopes and dreams on around football were accomplished in that moment. Coming to the Seahawks, I thought that I was coming to be a piece that was going to be part of something greater. But then when I got here, we needed a lot of pieces. And so it was a difficult adjustment from that point of view, just because I come from University of Virginia, where we had won a lot of football games, and we had taken a program that was kind of like an also ran or just had never really gained any footing in college football, and we took it to the number one team in the country. And so it was that type of mentality that I was bringing into the Seahawks. And then, once I got there, John, it was a different beast, not in like the terminology or learning plays or the workload wasn't too hard and all those things. It was the idea that you just had to be on top of your game every single game and every single play. It's very rare that you run across a guy in the NFL that really truly does take a play off. Like they may go harder on one play than they do the next play, but it doesn't mean that the play that they didn't go as hard on that they're not going hard. they just don't have like that extra edge that they may have had to play before. So it's very rare that you find dudes that just honestly take a play off, and so you just have to be on top of your game, and that to be quite honest with you, I had to get used to that, because coming from college, I may have played against 3 or 4 dudes in my whole college career that were NFL type players, and it was like Marco Coleman, Chris Slade, who I practice against every day, and then Levon Kirkland from Clemson, like Chester McLaughlin. Those may have been like the 4 dudes that I played against in my entire college career that were NFL caliber players. Not that they weren't good, the other guys weren't good players, but these weren't NFL guys. And so coming to the league, you just had to be on top of that, mentally, physically, everything just locked in every single play. If you didn't, then you get the quarterback's head knocked off. And so, I would say probably the first 6 or 7 games of my NFL career was pretty tough. I was experiencing things that I hadn't experienced before physically, no one beat me in pass rush. I could move anybody off the ball. And so when I got to the league, I wasn't able to do that every play, and that just took a toll on my psyche. And so I didn't quite know exactly how to respond to that right away. And so it took me a little bit of just mental exercise and then talking it through. And the Seahawks connected me with a guy named Richard Diana, who just passed away maybe 3 or 4 months ago, who was a good friend of Pete Carroll's, actually, who does a lot of this kind of mental coaching that Pete does, and he kind of helped me come out of that fog and get myself back to a place where I could play at the peak. And so, as a individual player, I'm pretty satisfied with where my career went from that point forward. I got to go to Detroit and block for Barry Sanders and be on an offensive line that one of few that ever blocked for a back that had 2,000 yards rushing, and then also be able to block for one of the top 5 all-time rushers. It's just like it's not a whole lot that people hear about because it's not stats and things that are thrown in the books. We don't make the highlights on ESPN and all that kind of stuff. But for me, it made my career very fulfilling, having not been able to get to the Super Bowl, which would have been the ultimate. And then I'll be honest with you, John. Like, I've never really spoken to anybody about it, but I never wanted to leave Seattle. Like, I just wanted to be here my entire career, and was really disappointed when I had broke my leg and my foot at the end of my third year. I had to have a couple more surgeries to get it right before the season started, so I missed the first half of the season in my fourth year here in Seattle. And then as a business decision, back then they had the franchise player and the transition player. I was a transition player for the Seahawks, and so as a business decision, they decided to keep James Atkins and then allow me to be a free agent. And they, quote unquote, didn't want to insult me with a contract offer, so they made me no offer. And that was really disappointing because I really love the city here, which is why I still live here. I never left here, and I wanted to be part of bringing the Seahawks, to the forefront, and I didn't get to do that. And so that was a little bit of a disappointment in my career. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I played with great dudes. I played with some awesome coaches. I made some good friends. I had some unbelievable experiences, and so I was able to afford my family some really cool and fun things, and so just got to get some exposure and meet some people I never would have had a chance to meet before.
Well, and you came to the team as a first-round pick in 1992. I was covering the team for the News Tribune, and it was clearly one of the strangest parts of Seahawk history. Ken Behring owned the team. The team eventually then tried to move to Los Angeles. That didn't work out. It was a 2-14 team that had some of the worst offensive numbers in NFL history. And here you are, proud left tackle coming from Virginia, and you got to be looking around saying, what is going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. We could even get out of our own way. And so, I think too, like with some of that, John, it's not that we had, we're full of Pro Bowl players on the offense, but we had very capable players. But I think it got to the point where you try to do too much, and trying to do too much, you just make it worse. And so it started bleeding, and you just couldn't stop the bleeding. And it was really, as a professional athlete, it was really, really embarrassing, and it was hard sometimes to not to go to work, but to be out and about in Seattle and do different things, because you didn't. I mean, at least for me, I didn't feel good about it. Like there was nothing fun about it. It wasn't. It was hard to find things to joke about. It was hard to be excited about. You get a first quarter into a game and you feel like that you may not have a chance to win that day because we just cannot get anything generated on offense. I think Rick Tootin at the time set the NFL record for the most punts in a season or something. It was crazy. I think we averaged 8 points a game. Like it was unbelievable. And then considering at the same time we had a top 10 defense, like we were set up to succeed.
Cortez Kennedy was Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, if we could have just doubled our offensive output, we probably would have been second. We would have had a chance to make a deep run in the playoffs. If we could have given our defense 16 points to work with, we would have had a chance, and we couldn't even do that. And so it was really hard to deal with. And then as a first round draft pick, you're thinking like every time we didn't score a touchdown, every time there was an interception, every time I had a false start or whatever it was, I felt like the entire stadium was looking at me. Like, man, like this dude came here and didn't help us do anything. And so as a first round draft pick, I carried that my whole first year. And so then that gave me even more incentive to do better next year, however I could do better, whether it was getting the guys together to work out, whether it was watching film, whether I was calling and watching film of other offensive tackles in the league, just try to learn and see what they were doing so I could improve my game. Like anything I could do so that we would not be in that position again, because it just felt terrible. And it felt horrible after the game, having to walk out of the Kingdom, having to walk to your car, having to walk past fans that they were still showing up and every time being on your side until it kind of got sideways, and then obviously they booed and did whatever they had to do. But they would start every game out. They started out giving us a chance, and we just could not offensively meet that. And then the other thing, John, is that our defense had every right to just come and berate us like no other. They had every right to yell and scream and point fingers and all that, and they didn't. They just kept going out there and playing and getting us the ball back every time. We'll get you guys the ball back. We'll get you guys the ball back. And they kept doing it. We just could never do anything with it. So to their credit, to still be able to play at the level that they played at without, openly pointing fingers, I'm sure behind closed doors they were probably angry as all get out. But they didn't come to us and put a lot of pressure on us that way, or they didn't call us out in the media and those kinds of things. I thought that was a testament to just their professionalism.
Talking to Ray Roberts, sorry. How different is it now to build an offensive line? Is it more difficult to build a good offensive line now than it was back when you played?
Yeah, I think it is, and I don't think it's because of the college game either. I think it's because of the way practice is now in the off season with the CBA agreements. When you can have contact, when you can't. Offensive line, John, is hard to learn in helmets and shorts and jerseys. Like it's even more. It's difficult to learn when you're able to just wear shoulder pads. So you really need to have full gear and like full contact in a way that you can understand body position, that you can understand angles, that you can understand leverage, that you can learn. Like a lot of times you teach kids. I've watched these high school coaches, and they teach kids how to get into a block, but they don't teach them how to finish the block. And so you have to learn all of that, and that's hard to do when you're not in pads, and it's hard to do when you don't get the actual times and hours or opportunities to be around the players and coaching them up and teaching them up. Like I know you remember, we would have a mini camp in February or March. We'd have another mini camp after the draft. We'd have another one like around May or June. So it's like we had all these opportunities to have pads on and to really get after each other. And I'm not saying that that's the only way to do it, because I know some of the new stuff is because of concussions and saving the hits and things, and I get that. But it also, as a probably unintended consequence, it makes it harder to develop offensive linemen because you can't do those things. So, if you have a kid that is super talented and he comes from one of the spread offenses and he's played his position very well for 4 years, and he's a great pass blocker, and he's used to being in a 2-point stance, well, you can't even get enough reps to get him in a 3-point stance to come off the ball and drive people like in a real physical posture, because you don't have enough time, and you don't get the opportunities to hit that way. So I think the CBA has done a disservice to offensive line play in that way, and I'm not necessarily going to put the blame on the way the college game has gone.
All right, so now Seattle goes out. They bring in Luke Jokel. They draft Ethan Posick. They on the right side of the line. They get Ode Abushi. Last year, very difficult line with a young offensive line. What do you think the state of the Seahawk offensive line is now?
You know what? I think it is what it has been for the last 2 or 3 years. It's an offensive line in flux, and I think that they're still trying to find pieces. And regardless of what they say, I do think that they, in a way, are trying to find a way to be as good as they can be and as cheap as they can be at that position, because there's nothing else to explain how they're going about putting it together. Like, there's a lot that I love about the Seahawks. I love about Pete Carroll and the way that he coaches a team, the way he leads men, the way he allows them to be who they are. But there's something about this way they're building an offensive line that I just don't quite understand. And, like this idea that they want versatile offensive linemen, if you look at the top 3 or 4 or 5 offensive lines in the league, they're not built on versatility. They're built on guys having PhDs in their position. and so they don't have a left tackle who can also play right guard, and they don't have a right guard who necessarily can play center. Like they don't have a center who can play tackle. They have a center who can play center extremely well. They have a left tackle who is one of the top left tackles in the league. They have a right guard who is an awesome right guard. So and so I don't understand this idea around versatility other than that allows you the space to then draft guys later in the draft or to find guys that are not offensive linemen and then try to make them offensive linemen, which then all keeps your costs down at the end of the day for the offensive line. And so it's really kind of hard to understand. And I think they can probably put something together where they'll have moments and, even, throughout the season or maybe a year or so where they have a productive offensive line, but it doesn't seem like something sustainable. It doesn't seem like, it doesn't feel like a Walter Jones and Hutch kind of a offensive line where you have something in place for a long period of time, and then you really truly are building on something. It feels always like a project.
Yeah, in fact, I remember that line because that went to the Super Bowl. It had been together, I think, more than 50 games where the 5 starters played every game for 50 games, and that's rare to be able to do, and it's getting rarer, I guess, now. But that's something right now that doesn't seem to be in the cards for this team.
Yeah, and it's to me, you risk the chance of losing the opportunities, and I'm not going to say wasting opportunities because they can always. Like I said, they can always rise up and find a way to win and do all those kinds of things, but you risk the chance of losing opportunities when you have so many of the other pieces. You have receivers that are very capable and very efficient in how they catch the ball. You have a quarterback, to me, who is, I don't get into the elite or non-elite or whatever. For what you want to do, that dude can win a bunch of football games. And then you're trying to find, the running back crew can be good when they're healthy. And then you have this, the guys on defense that can really, get it done. And so I really think that you risk the chance of losing a lot of opportunities because of this fluctuating offensive line. And I just don't get it. And maybe it's not for me to get. And I wish I could have a conversation so that I could understand exactly what it is that they're trying to do and how they're trying to build it. And maybe I don't need to know it. Who am I? I'm just Ray Roberts, but I'm just as I look at it and just based on my history playing in this league and then looking at other offensive lines around the league that are good, that can win games, they're not really built around being versatile. They're built on having, it's not even dudes that have degrees at their position. They have masters and PhDs at their position. And so in my playing day, when you mentioned an offensive lineman that was versatile, you normally were talking about a backup, because you needed one or two of them that can step in for injuries when a guard went down or when a center went down or when the tackle went down. We had a kid in Detroit named Mike Compton who could play every position on the offensive line, and which was awesome. But then it also hurt him in his career as it related to when he became a free agent and trying to pay him because no one knew exactly what he was. And then just on a whim, he called me during the offseason and was like, Ray, I don't know what's going on. I'm not getting looked at by anybody. The only team that's taking a look at me is the Patriots. And I said, you know what? I said, just go to the Patriots for a short deal and then re-up after that. You're young enough to get 3 years in, and then you can re-up after that. Then he goes to the Patriots, and they turn into the Patriots, and he wins 2 Super Bowls. Playing left guard and center. He would play left guard on a lot of the plays, and then when they went to shotgun, when they started going to shotgun, Damien Woody would go to left guard, and then Mike would go to center because he could do the shotgun snap better than Damien Woody could. So versatility is a positive, but it's not a positive for every guy on your offensive line, and I don't think it's a philosophy for which you build your offensive line around.
Hey, Ray, it's great catching up with you, and congratulations on a great career, and I'm sure football's just getting around the corner. We'll be talking a lot.
Oh, I appreciate it, big guy. Thanks for having me on. And I will say that, John, you've always been in my corner, and I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate you having me on and giving me a chance to talk.
Hey, Ray, thank you. That's it for this week's edition of Schooled. Thanks for listening. Class dismissed.